Okay, so we will start our webinar. We have some people already starting to come in. Welcome. And for those of you who are joining us right now, if you did not hear the opening announcement, the webinar is being recorded, and you will be able to view it after it's up on our city YouTube channel. It usually takes us anywhere from a few days to a week to get it up because we have to go through other departments to make that happen. But it is available to come back later and check out how we're doing on things. We have pretty close to 30 people signed up for today, and so I'm going to just go over some things while we get everybody in. Well, actually, you're coming in a little slow this morning. So I'm going to launch a poll that you can answer while we're talking, and we'll go through some of the particulars of how we do this. And if you want to answer the poll, I'm just going to leave it up for a little while. And then I can take it down after people get in. So most of you have probably done a webinar already, at least one or two, and you know this, but if not, there should be a menu bar near the bottom of your screen, and it will show you where you can click on chat. You can click on Q&A, but I encourage people to just use the chat because it can be copied afterwards, so you can see everybody's answers. I don't have that up on mine right now, but there should be a button, I think, near the bottom of your chat screen where you can answer anonymously if you choose to. If you want us to follow up with you on something, then use your name or somehow let us know you're there. So John Wakoyak is going to make our presentation this morning, and I will let him introduce himself in a few minutes when we get to that point. As I said, we do have the chat that we would like you to, so we put something in and it says, can you mention or post the link for the recording? Yes, we will put that in. And there's also a link, there's a page on the PowerPoint that has all of the major sources that we're referring to. So the workshops, if you're interested in upcoming workshops, as you probably know, you can find those at cityoftacoma.org/workshops to sign up for new workshops. You can also find past recordings on that site. And then the city's YouTube channel is just youtube.com/Tacoma/playlist. And you can get there with just the Tacoma, but then it comes up with everything. So if you don't do the playlist and the address, search on the playlist for EnviroHouse, because all the city stuff, there's tons of information on there. So take a look around, you can find other things too. And then John will give you information on getting more information from Tacoma Power, because that's where he works, and we'll talk about the tree coupon program. And that is mytpu.org. So those will be listed elsewhere. Next week, we are doing mason bees, and mason bees are great because they pollinate fruit trees and berry bushes, and they're an early pollinator. They're really easy to work with. They don't sting, they don't have hives. You just get this little house and put it up, and sometimes you see them and sometimes you don't, and they come back. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started, although we're really slow getting in here this morning, but hopefully people will check in and catch up with us. So as I mentioned, for those of you coming in just a couple minutes ago, the webinar is being recorded. Please use the chat rather than the Q&A, because that way you can copy it and I can save it, and we'll have all those questions that we can refer to later. So John is going to do our presentation today, and I'm going to let him introduce himself because he's got a lot of background in forestry and trees and all that kind of thing.
Are you ready,
Okay.
Janda?
Huh?
Are you ready to go?
Yeah, you are ready to go. Alan, I will put that in the chat now so you can see it, and then I will repeat it again later.
Okay, wonderful. Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is John Walkowiak. I am a conservation manager for Tacoma Power's customer energy programs, and I am a certified arborist and certified forester. I've got, I hate to say how many years experience, let's just put 30 plus years experience in working with trees and forests across our country, and have been here in Washington State almost 15 years, almost hard to believe. And what we're going to talk to today is all about pruning your shade trees and young trees and getting them ready, as well as talking about how to take care of your maturing trees and how to do it correctly. So we've got a really good quick PowerPoint to kind of go through some of the process. We'll break a little bit a couple times for a couple poll questions, and then we'll also take a break for a little bit for I to show you some of the tools that I use and some of the safety equipment, and we'll get started. So hopefully everything will work here. I'm going to share my screen.
As you're doing that, I also wanted to mention that in the chat, if you check, you have a place where you can click on one. It's either the ellipsis or just where it says two. I think it's where it says two. And check everyone rather than just a panelist and host, because then that way everybody can see your question and answer. So stop sharing.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. So Janda, can you see the presentation? Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. Again, my name is John Walkowiak. I'm a certified arborist and forester. What does a certified arborist mean? It means basically that you have passed a proficiency exam, you maintain continuing education, and you work with ethics. So we have a standards and ethics that we all do and follow, and the same as a certified forester. So just kind of give you that quick idea. What we're going to cover today, if I can get it to go, there we go. So I wanted to kind of start out with what I call pruning myths, just kind of a quick QA here. And, you know, the first one is it's really hard, it's difficult. And the answer is no, it's not. Oops, hopefully it will. There you go. It's really pretty straightforward. All you have to do is know a little bit about how a tree grows and how it responds to pruning. And then you've got to have a vision of what you want the tree to look like when it's complete. So I always kind of think about when I'm pruning a branch, I'm thinking, what's the other 2 branches ahead that I'm going to prune, or what will the tree look like? So I often step back and look at what I'm doing. So I'm thinking forward ahead. The second one is, hey, the plant's going to die if I prune it at the wrong time. So you really can't kill your tree by pruning it. You can maybe, if you don't do it right, you could impact it with poor timing, and we'll talk about that. But there's really, you know, the one time to tell you is you really should only be pruning, and that's the next one, which is when to do it. You can prune any time of the year, except generally during bud break. So that for us here in around Western Washington is generally from about the end of March to about the 1st of May. Generally the bark is extremely tender and it tears and rips a little bit. And so it's usually a good time to kind of stay away from that zone. But the reality is you can prune really any time other than bud break. And you have to treat all cut surfaces with tree paint. So this is the old thought here. We don't recommend the use of tree paint, okay? Basically, wound dressings provide no benefit and actually can hinder what we're going to talk about, natural wound sealing, okay? Actually can hold moisture next to a pruning cut, which can then maybe accelerate decay. So that's not a good thing. So let's see, this is going to be kind of there we go. So what we're going to cover today is we're going to do a quick one on getting you guys to understand a little bit about tree growth and why we prune them. We're going to take you on the road to the branch bark ridge. We don't want you to get ripped off. We're going to talk about the 3 steps to success, and then what needs to go and what's the right union. So kind of think that one. Fear the tree topper, okay? The best time to prune, the right tools for the right job, and pruning without a ladder, okay? So the first thing I want you to keep in mind is trees grow really in 3 areas. And obviously they're growing up at the tips of the branches, which the upper part of a live tree we call the crown, okay? The living crown, that's where the living branches and the leaves and the needles and the foliage all exist, okay? That's for photosynthesis, okay? They grow fat in diameter, that's for strength, okay? And then they grow at the root tips. And those root tips are really the way for the tree to get its moisture, for a way for the tree to get its nutrients. And there's a sort of almost like inside straws going up and down the tree from the top to the bottom, moving fluids and sugars back and forth to help the tree grow and succeed. So you have to keep in mind how it grows. The other part is I want you to keep in mind as you look at this picture of a tree cookie here, is I want you to think about not only the idea of growth rings, but really where the tree is actively growing in the trunk area or even in the branch area. So if you look where that red arrow is, you'll see the term cambium. Cambium is a thin layer of woody cells just right underneath the bark of a tree. And that cambium is an active area of woody cell development and growth. That's really where the tree is growing woody cells. And if we can protect that cambium area when we're working with it, the tree is able to grow and thrive. Now you also see a little bit about this, you'll see a couple scars, a couple dark spots in there. So keep in mind that a tree does not heal when it is injured, it seals. So it basically grows around the wound. So the days of looking at fire scars and things like that is basically the tree has grown around that injury and has continued to thrive and grow. So I think we have a next poll question, Chanda.
Okay, I'm launching that and I can't see on my screen whether you can see it or not, but I assume you can.
I can see it.
Okay, so if you all want all of the above, that's kind of what I was thinking I'd do. I did want to add where John had mentioned that you can prune anytime pretty much. There are some limitations to that if you're pruning fruit trees, because anything that's fruit bearing, you want to prune when it's dormant, because you could be pruning off the fruit, pruning off the leaves of the buds, just causing some problems with that. We do have a webinar we just did last week on pruning fruit trees that you can, it's already posted at the City of Tacoma channel that I put in the chat. So you can look at that one and see the differences. So we have, I'm just going to go ahead and end this. It looks like pretty much everybody's answered.
Okay.
I think a lot of people sign up and then plan to look at these later because it's Saturday morning.
Yeah, agreed. Okay.
Everybody is answered to remove dead and dying branches.
Okay. All right.
And all of the above.
Yep. All right.
So.
All right. So there's our results. Okay. Do you want to just end that?
I thought I did.
Okay. I will do it. How's that sound? Okay.
Okay.
All right. So I think everybody has got an idea of why they want to prune. So as I kind of do it this way, I think about this concept, you know, kind of safety and security. It's kind of clearance around like stop signs or roadways or corners. Sometimes the ability to see in an area that maybe you want to make sure people can't hide behind, all those types of things. You want to concentrate the growth of the tree on the best branches. So you want to make kind of pick and choose which branch is the best and concentrate that growth. You do it for tree health. We talked about flowering and fruiting. There's some timing there. Conflicts and clearance. So you want to make sure that you have the clearance above the sidewalk or the street, or maybe around your utility wires. The view, obviously, if you have a view from your house, you want to maintain that. So you want to maybe prune the tree appropriately, and then to do the storm repair. Okay, good. So I have a couple golden rules of tree pruning. There are 5 that I hold. And the number one, again, I want you to keep in mind is the live top of the tree where there's branches and leaves and needles is called the crown of the tree. Our concept is you never prune more than 33%, 1/3 of the living crown at any one time. That doesn't mean you come back every year and prune another third, okay? The basic concept is you're doing pruning over time, but you never want to put this tree under stress too much by pruning too much. So you can see in this diagram here, the concept is we designated those blue branches in the bottom as the ones to prune for the first pruning. And we may have to come back and do this more than once. So again, never more than 1/3 of the pruning of live branches at any one time. Golden rule 1. Golden rule 2, you always prune back to another branch. So you don't just like snip it off at the top. You always prune it back to another branch. That's going to promote that active sealing around the injury. And you always prune it back to at least a branch size that's at least 1/3 of that size. So if you have a 3-inch branch, you prune it back to no smaller than a 1-inch branch, just as an example, okay? You can see in this case here, obviously for us here at the utility, our goal is to make sure we don't have conflict with trees and our wires and those types of things. So we're working to prune them back so that we don't have to come back over and over again. So we don't round them over anymore. We always use good directional pruning. The third one is you really want to focus on the damaged branches and those that are crossing. Again, concentrating the growth on the best branches. They're generally fairly easy to pick out where you can see it, and realize that the tree only has so much space available to grow. And sometimes it does what it wants to do, which is it tries to maximize all the leaf surface it can. It doesn't do it like planned out. It's just the way the buds are on the tree. It's just going to do what it can try to do. So you kind of help it out because there isn't any natural competition around it to kind of keep it in check. So as I said, wherever a branch meets another branch or the main trunk, there is a branch collar. It is a swelling area where a branch meets a branch. And if you go look at any live tree, you'll be able to see it. Oftentimes, you'll see this kind of area where the red arrow is there, called the branch bark ridge. It's just part of a little raised area. That branch collar is just on the, in this case, right-hand side of that branch bark ridge. So that's why it's kind of an idea of the looking for that. It's a good way. This branch collar is that active cambial growth area that we want to protect. And that's the woody cell area that will help the tree seal around the pruning cut. So let's go to our next poll question, Chanda. So we're looking to know what your experience is in pruning trees. Okay. gives me a little idea when I start talking to people about kind of their experience and what they need, and that helps a lot. So thank you. That really
So
does
I'm
help.
going to end that and share it.
Okay, yeah. So people want to make sure they've had some experience or no experience, but they want to make sure they're doing it right. And I think that's hopefully we're going to help you do that today. Okay.
Okay, so I'll stop sharing. And if yours is still showing, then you just need to close the poll up on the top right.
Yep, did so. Okay. Okay, so again, here is the golden rule 4. That branch bark ridge is the critical area to help us identify where the branch collar is. And that branch collar, whether it's a live or a dead branch, is a swelling. And that's the area we're going to do everything we can to protect, because that's that cambial area that allows the woody cells to grow around and seal the injury. So it's our target more than anything else when we're working to prune a tree. So I really do want you to kind of think about this before the equipment comes out. So unfortunately, each cut has the potential to change the tree forever. You can't cut the tree and glue it back on. It just doesn't quite work to prune the branch, put it back onto the tree. So before you make the cut, you really want to say, okay, is this what I'm going to do? What's it going to look like? And is that going to be the best thing for the tree? Removing the branches and any limbs affects the tree's ability to do photosynthesis. And obviously for all of us going back to our biology days in high school, photosynthesis is the sugar production, the glucose production that a tree needs to grow and thrive. Large limb removal can impact the form and geometry of a tree. So if you take out a really large branch, you got to make sure you're not kind of off balancing it too much. It may require, with large limbs, to maybe do them over time. We could talk about that as well. And anything that I consider just kind of inconsiderate removal of branches can leave the tree susceptible to decline. So if you get pruned too much, you often see the tree doing lots of sprouting afterwards, or it can be put under stress. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So as I said, I really don't want you getting ripped off. And I don't mean by unscrupulous tree service. What I'm talking about is pruning the branch. So if you were to take your pruning saw in the picture there, a C, and just start at the branch collar and start from the top, the tree would always peel like that and rip and tear. And that's because the tree has two things going on there. It has a lot of weight, and it also has tension in the wood because it is a living material. And you can always tell when people maybe do poor pruning, you can look at the way that the tree is in D, flush cutting. You can see the way the tree is kind of attempting to seal. It shouldn't be a rip or a tear at the bottom. It should be a nice donut shape around the growth. And that's kind of what our thought is. So the golden rule number 5, and there are only 5, so I won't make you, won't be a quiz, but the concept here is really 3 steps to do and prune a branch. The first step is to find that branch collar and go up about 5, maybe 4 to 5 inches from it. Make an undercut with your saw, in this case, a hand pruning saw. What that does is it takes the wood tension out of the way. It just sort of like takes it away, and you only make a cut maybe about 20% into the branch. So you don't have to try and cut the entire limb from the bottom, but just make a little undercut to make some reduction in the tension. The second part is you come over the top of that area where you made your undercut and you meet it and you take the weight off, which we call a top cut. That is just basically taking the tension out of the wood. It's taking the weight off the wood, which is going to allow us to do the last step, which is to really make a nice pruning cut right where the branch collar is. There's no ripping and there's no tearing. And that will allow the tree to seal around that injury. So even when you use small hand tools, it's really important to protect the branch collar and the branch ridge, okay? So in this case, a pair of hand pruners, in the red line there, you can see that we identified where that branch collar is and we are cutting to it. Sometimes you don't have, there isn't maybe the need to go up and do an undercut and an overcut with a small limb, but the key thing should be the good timing, as well as knowing the skill and the tool that you're dealing with. So just a good step to tell you is if you have to use your hand pruners and you're really kind of reaming on them, it's probably too big of a branch. So keep in mind a 1/2 inch or less is kind of hand pruning tools. In the bottom below those hand pruners, you'll see that donut shaped response of the tree when it was pruned appropriately. That's what we're hoping to get, to kind of get that nice callus growth around it. So our next poll question, Janda. Okay, so what, why not prune your trees when you're alone? Why not do it? Why do you need to make sure somebody else is around? All the above. Yep, exactly. That's certainly one.
Okay, half of you have answered.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of questions there, so maybe it's taking a little longer to read them.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah.
Or we can assume that everybody thinks all of the above.
Yeah, well, we're getting there. We're at 5 now, and one more, I think, to do it, and then we'll be in good shape.
You're not being graded on this, anybody.
Okay, all right.
There
Cool.
we go. Okay.
All right. Yeah, so really the key thing is really all the above are really the correct answers. I'm going to tell you right now, every one of these circumstances in these questions have happened to me, okay? And I've done it either to myself or working with somebody and have seen these things. You're dealing with weight and all kinds of other things. Okay, there's our questions. I'm going to go ahead.
Did you see the share?
Yep, I'm going to stop.
Okay.
Yep. And if I can get this, there you go. So what I want to tell you about is a little bit about why it's so important. Obviously, eye protection is such a real critical thing. If you happen to wear glasses, you might assume that you're protecting your eyes. But if you've ever pruned a branch and had sawdust come in your eye or go underneath your glasses, it happens. If you've ever run into a bald-headed, bald-faced hornet's nest in the ground, you can realize that they like to go for your eyes and they go underneath your glasses, which has happened to me. That's not a fun event. Obviously, having gloves is an important component. And in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing for just a second, and I am going to bring myself back on, and hopefully you can see me well. A good pair of leather gloves are a critical component of doing tree pruning. Okay, and you know what? These are heavily used, and yes, there's marks on them because they're heavily used. Okay, and the other part is eye protection. As I said, glasses are certainly one thing. There are others like these right here, which are more of a safety glass that wraps around your eyes to make sure you don't get sawdust that goes in between your eyes. These are kind of cool looking, obviously. There are the, and then if you're really on a more of a gray day, as I call these, the Pollyanna type glasses. It makes you look kind of like bee-like, but it is nice and bright. But again, the concept is it's wrapping around my eyes. And the other one I'm going to show you, which I'm just starting to use, My wife has been always trying to make sure I don't hurt myself much. Okay, there's no guarantee I won't hurt myself. But when I work with power tools, I was able to get, this was a nice Christmas gift from my wife. And this has the hard hat, and it actually has the earmuffs that go around. Now, the key thing about this one is twofold. This is really when I'm working with power tools. So if I'm working with a pole pruner of some power, something that can fall from above, or if I'm working with something like a chainsaw or a power pruner, you know, this earmuffs really do help you. The decibels from a chainsaw are very, very high. So if you use it a lot, you don't really want to have those ringing ears at the end of the day. And then this is a really nice kind of pre-COVID concept, but it's a mesh nest face mask. And again, it allows me to see and breathe real easily. The clear plastic ones that go on here oftentimes they fog up. So I like this one that has the mesh. And the concept is, again, none of the dust is coming in my face and my eyes. So it really works great. And again, you can lift it up to see what you're doing once you're done. And obviously you can take the earmuffs off. So I'm looking forward to using this tool when I work some more. When I'm out in the woods, I do have hard hats and things, but I've not tried this. And I'm talking with people that do this much more than I do on a daily basis. These are the types of things that a professional really does think about. They are not that expensive. I think this set was less than $30. And so they're really a great way for safety. It's a lot cheaper than a trip to the emergency room. So keep that in mind. So again, safety is a paramount thing. Gloves, eye protection, anything you can do to deal with protecting yourself is really a great thing. You really don't want to do the pruning in your backyard and then come back and say, oh, guess what? To your spouse or your partner, hey, I need to go to the emergency room, okay? Or can you help put some pressure on this cut, okay? And those are things that have happened to me all the time. So I try to not hurt myself as much in doing this, okay? All right, so we're gonna go back to the presentation here. There we go. So again, concept eye protection, the gloves, the leather gloves are probably the best because you can actually prevent cutting your fingers with those, and the tools are sharp. Really want to encourage you not to get on a ladder. Ladders are great on real stable ground, but generally when you're working with your trees, you're on uneven ground. And when you get up with a ladder and a tool, you're reaching and you kind of are losing the opportunity for balance. And there are so many injuries from people falling off ladders. And I have fallen off a ladder before, but haven't hurt myself too bad. That's required medical attention, but it is easy to do. Using the right tools for the job, and we're going to talk about tools in a minute. And I want you to keep in mind chainsaws. They are extremely fast. They're extremely dangerous. Even a short bar one, electric or gas powered or battery powered, now that they're becoming more common, those chains are running at 10,000 to 12,000 revolutions per minute or RPMs. So the reality is it's just a heartbeat and a quick cut that's easy to happen to all of us. And it has happened to anybody that's used chainsaws where they have got hurt by them, generally, especially when you're tired at the end of the day. And that's the key thing about safety is know your limitations. Okay, the old Clint Eastwood line, a man's got to know his limitations, and a man or a woman needs to know their limitations. When you start getting tired, that's the time to put the tools down, take a break, or call it a day. And so that's kind of my line in the sand when I can start feeling it hurting my arms, or I start feeling I'm dragging a little bit. And if I'm using a power saw and I'm not holding it with both hands, then I know it's time to put it down and take a break. And then the last part about safety, know when to hire a professional. If it's a large branch, piece of equipment that you don't have or not comfortable with, or it's hanging over your house, or it's a tall one that really requires somebody with the equipment and the training, that's when you want to hire a professional. So let's talk a little bit about what branches should you prune, okay? So take a good idea of when you take a step back from your tree, and I want you to think about it being a canvas that you're going to be painting with, okay? And you need to take a step back and look at key things that you want to improve. The first one is dead and dying branches and twigs. Those can come out at any time, all right? And the reality is they don't really impact photosynthesis, but what they can impact is safety. They can fall, they can come down at any time. So you don't really need that. They can have some impact to attracting insects and perhaps some disease problems, but generally, the key thing is it's about safety. Anything that's overextended or weak and large. And so I looked at a tree for a family here just the other day, and the basic concept, they really want the trees. And what we saw was the branches had grown so far that they were putting so much weight on the main stem that it was beginning to bend and twist. And so we thought about, well, let's pull them back just a little bit and take some of that weight off of it. When you see the basal sprouts, and those are basically coming from the ground level around the stump or the trunk level of the ground where the tree is meeting the ground, okay? Those are the types of things that are often related to what are what I'm going to call bad grafting practices. Many landscape trees are actually grafted on other rootstock to get them to grow quickly. And oftentimes when they're under stress a little bit, you'll start to see those trees sprout. So almost every fruit tree, lots of ornamentals are grafted on other rootstock. And so you're going to see that water or those basal sprouts often. And there's no real way to eliminate them, be done with it. You have to do it all the time. It's just kind of a reality. You do it as you work. Water sprouts are those that are growing directly from a branch and tend to go straight up in the air. They generally have a lighter color or a darker color, depending on what type of tree, but you can always tell them they're not growing out at an angle outside of like a normal branch. They tend to be going straight up. Water sprouts are from what are called advantageous buds that are underneath the bark of a tree. When a tree feels stressed, it doesn't have enough leaf canopy or growing area, those advantageous buds will pop out and those water sprouts grow. And they actually kind of suck out the moisture from the tree rather than it going to the ends of the branches where we want it starting to grow. And I've seen water sprouts on a cherry tree at my house here. They have grown 4 to 5, 6 feet in a year. So obviously they can really hurt the tree if not appropriately addressed. Those that are weakly attached or appear to be in decline, branches that are crossing or rubbing, okay? And then we're going to talk about this a little bit more, but narrow angled branches and those that can be codominant. What I mean by the word codominant means you've got two tops and they're both growing next to each other, or one is attempting to outrace the other. The concept is really we don't want two, we want one, okay? So I think this diagram will probably help you a little bit identify the things we talked about. So you can see the reason why we're not a big thrill of dead branches or those that are broken, because they fall on people and they generally fall not because the wind is blowing, they just fall. And branches have a tendency to fall when they want to. So sometimes you might just be walking underneath there and boom, it comes down. The sucker, again, is that basal sprout that's coming right from the base of the tree. Then the water sprouts, as you can see, are those that are growing directly, kind of indiscriminately along a branch, but always growing straight up. You can see where those are. Then you're looking at those that are rubbing or crossing. There's some examples of those. So those are kind of some really key things that are easy to pick out and work with right away when you're looking at removing branches that aren't really going to help the tree grow and thrive and keep being healthy. So the next part I wanted to talk about is the concept of the right union. Oftentimes, trees or branches tend to grow together at different unions. And you'll see in this case, the A or U-shaped union, which is these two branches have come together with the green. There is the branch bark ridge is actually pointed up. The wood and bark is pointed up. So you can always look at that shape and you can see that U shape right in there. That means basically that the branches are strongly attached to each other, okay? The V-shaped one where the red is here, you can see that the branches are attached at a V shape. And what happens is there's ingrown bark in here, and there's sort of like almost an indentation where you can't see the pushed up branch bark ridge. It's actually buried down in here. And there's bark. Bark is great to protect the outside of the tree, but it's not a strong woody attachment. So oftentimes when you have these V-shaped unions, what'll happen is the tree will want to pull apart from those areas. So we want to eliminate the V-shaped union. We can live with the U-shaped one. So here's an example of a tree that was planted in the kind of the parking or the right of way that you might want to call it in a neighborhood. And the basic concept here is this tree has two tops to it, and it has a little bit of a V shape. If we were to get in close and look at it, this is what we want to not happen. This is the case where the tree should not have been planted. It should have been pruned first when it was grown in a nursery. And when you buy these trees, you need to be looking as, does it have a central leader or does it have a multiple top? Okay. That is going to be a problem if we talk about dealing with, remember, not pruning more than 1/3. This is going to take years of training this tree because you can't just take one side off. That would be violating that rule, taking more than 30% of the branches at any one time, all kinds of stress on the tree. So our goal is we really want to have a strong central leader. So again, the same housing development, same area, same type of tree. And you can see that this one has a nice, strong central leader that we can work with and have it grow strong. And it has sort of a stable structure to it. So when you're going to look at a tree at a nursery to purchase, depending on the type, and again, some trees are multiple stem by nature, and that's fine. But if you're thinking about growing a shade tree, you really want to try to find one with a strong central leader. So the next part I want you to do is, if you've ever heard the old song, Fear the Reaper, well, I want you to fear the tree topper. The concept here was basically these larger trees were rounded off or rounded. They were basically gone up a certain height and all the branches were just cut. That violated the entire concept of the 1/3 rule. It violated the concept of always pruning back to another branch. And it violated all the processes that happened. When I asked the people why they did it, this was a retirement development. They said, well, they were afraid that the tree branches would fall and damage the property. Well, I took a step back and I looked at them. And if you look at all the trees kind of down this line, you could see all kinds of really bad branch angles and all kinds of other problems with these trees. These trees basically then became like kind of like a hairy sprout. All the branches sprouted. They were all weakly attached. And the true damage from this tree was not from the branches up here that if it had fallen, it's the main trunk or stem where the weight is. And there's one, if you go the second one in, you can actually see here that that's the one leaning towards the roof of the house in this complex. So I was able to convince them to remove the trees and we replanted appropriate ones. So tree topping is one of those things. If you have a tree care company or a tree service that comes to your house and say, well, I can top it for you, that's when you know they're not a professional. Tell them out of here, okay? Now we're going to talk a little bit about pruning tools. And I want to talk to you about the different types that everyone can use to do their pruning. There are hand pruners, loppers, which are those lopping shears that you see, pruning saws, and chainsaws. And we're going to talk about those all here a little bit. I'm going to stop sharing and catch my breath here for a sec, but I'm going to bring my gloves on to be safe. Okay, that's the first thing. All right. The next part is I want to talk to you about quality pruning tools. So I grew up in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and my father was a World War II veteran. He was a very thrifty individual. And I'll use that's the kind word to use. I always told my father he was cheap at times. So the concept was, it's amazing how that rubbed off on me. So if I started thinking about pruning tools and I started pricing out hand pruners, it wasn't unusual to see them at the $35 price. And I'm thinking, wow, that seems so expensive for a pair of hand pruners. Well, heck, I'll just go down to the hardware store and I'll find some that look just like it. And guess what? They're only $6. Well, you know what? You get what you pay for. So these $6 tools, see if I can, oops, there we go. There, it looks like the same type of a pruning tool as the $35 one, except what you find out after about 2 or 3 cuts, they don't hold together. The screws fall apart, all those things, okay? And it's not, it's not a tool that's going to be a long lasting one. So if you're going to do tree pruning, you want to try to do and use the right tools. So the one I'm going to show you, and I apologize, they're not as clean as they should be, but they were being used here. These are Corona. There are other ones called Felco. Corona and Felco are 2 of the better brands for pruning branches and hand pruners. They're in the $35, $40 price range if you look and round. And they have what are called kind of the scissor action, kind of hand pruning concept. So what that's doing is it's putting equal tension on the branch and it's cutting it all the way through the same pressure. The other type of pruners that some people have, and you'll find out why they're clean because I don't use these, are what are called Anvil Pruners. There's a flat surface in here, and it basically, the cutting edge comes to the flat surface. Well, the problem with these type of pruners is it's actually squeezing the branch. So here we are trying to make sure we protect the branch collar, and we're squeezing it rather than pruning it or cutting it. So the concept I would rather have you do is keep in mind, scissor action pruners are the best, and good quality ones, they last. So these are 4 or 5 years old now. I have some that have lasted 25 and 30 years. Pretty good investment. These look nice and clean, but they're useless. They don't work well for pruning branches. All right. The other one I want to talk to you about are pruning saws. And there are many different types of pruning saws. Some are, again, similar companies. Some are like this double tooth type ones. They prune on the back cut. That's when they're cutting. So you're pushing and pulling it through. So don't think about like going this way, you're pulling it back, okay? And these double teeth are extremely sharp. The saws themselves are fairly narrow and easy to bend and twist. So you got to make sure you're making that undercut and making that overcut, and you're trying not to exceed the size of the branch too big. These types of hand saws work for a branch up to about 2 inches, maybe a little bit more, but the bigger the branch, the more you're working on it. And so you won't need to go to the gym when you're doing a lot of tree pruning that day. Now I'm going to show you my favorite pruning saw, which is called a samurai sword. Samurai saw. This is the name of the brand. It is a Japanese brand. It is the best one I've ever found. They are about $35. They generally last a long period of time. But again, you have to make sure you're really kind of careful with them a little bit where you don't bind the saw. The tips can break over time. Okay. And interesting enough, I had to buy, my wife got a new one for me for Christmas, which is brilliant because I cried when I broke my other one. And the blade cost as much as the whole new saw did. So those things do happen. But again, the concept is these double teeth saws work really well to make a nice clean cut. Again, following that 3-step process, making sure that you're making your undercut to relieve the tension, the overcut to take the branch off and the weight, and then going right next to it because they allow you to kind of get in those tight areas. Some people like to use what are called loppers. And these are these type of pruning loppers. They come in that scissor-like type ones, like in this case, or they do come with those Anvil ones. So again, the scissor type ones are the best. The thing about these types of pruners, these loppers, is they allow you to reach up a little higher, and then it gives you just a little bit more leverage with a little larger branch. Generally, these will go up to about 1 inch without a problem, maybe 1.25 inches. Okay, so loppers work really well to give you the leverage. I don't want you to be fooled by what I'm going to call fancy tools. So this was, I was at a arborist show, and this is a Felco saw. And I was always kind of debating about having something that would loop around my belt when I'm hanging up in a tree and trying to have that saw, available. And so I don't have to keep opening and closing it. And so I saw this one. And when I pulled it out, it was like, wow, that is really cool. It's kind of like a little samurai type of thing. It works okay. And actually, the folding saw is better. I just have a tendency that it just doesn't quite really work as well as I had hoped. But in this case here, you can see the sawdust on those. Okay. Yes, scissor type saws are bypass pruners. That's correct. I just saw the chat or the question in the chat. Yep. Bypass or scissors are the same. So again, keep in mind, quality tools do pay. You can often find good ones sort of at this certain time of year when people aren't pruning. So sort of the end of the fall. It's amazing. It's kind of like trying to find a snow shovel in Western Washington. You don't buy it when we actually get snow. You wait until all the snow goes along and they put them on sale and you said, you know what, next year I'm going to be ready. And you buy that shovel and you have it in your garage. And the same way with tools, you can find them, and it's surprising where you can find them and at what price. I have seen Corona hand pruners, quality ones, at Target. I've seen them at Fred Meyer in different areas, and oftentimes at reasonable prices. You can find them at the larger box stores, other areas, hardware stores locally, or of course online. So just keep in mind, good quality tools will last you a long period of time. They will do what we want to do, which is one, protect that branch collar. It'll do it more effectively. You will injure yourself less with good quality tools, and they are a good investment. So I do want to get those concepts to you. All right. Thank you for listening.
Let me pop in a second on that. This is a good time. I don't know what kind of tools and the quality that they have, but keep in mind if you need tools and you don't want to invest or can't invest right now, the Tacoma Tool Library, which is closed until March with their winter hours, but they have moved there in the upper level, approachable from the back, Tacoma Public Library. And they have tools, equipment, including yard and lawn tools, household tools, sewing machines, all kinds of things that you can borrow if you don't want to invest. Hand tools, I would recommend if you can to invest now, but if you do need to use them, they will be open the 1st of March, and I'll put that contact information in the chat. So that's just a good resource.
Yeah. So again,
You're,
typical types of rules.
John, you're breaking up now. Whatever you did before to fix that.
Can you hear me now?
Nope, still breaking up.
Is that better now?
Nope. You sound like you just came out of your cave from hibernation. Did you lose a link or something?
I think so. Can you hear me now? Better.
I can hear you, but it's not clear.
Okay. We'll do our best, I guess. Okay. All right.
You got anything I unplug and replug in your speakers or?
All right.
While John's getting that figured out, I'm going to put the link in the chat for how to register on the EnviroHouse for upcoming workshops. And the next one, as I mentioned, is the Mason Bees on Saturday the 12th. We are skipping the 3-day weekend, and on February 26th, we'll be doing one on how to choose fruit trees that grow well in Washington State or in Western Washington, what kind of fruit trees and how to care for them. That's a really good one. And then in March, we will be doing, and these are all online through March, we'll be doing heat pumps, ductless whole house, heat pump water heaters. March 12th, we'll be doing two. We'll be doing one on raising your own chickens, urban chickens, and how to build a coop. Yard waste composting, and we will end March on the 26th with spring gardening and getting your garden ready to plant, and what plants you can put out at this point in time. Jenny Call will be doing that. She's been doing it for quite a while now, and that's got a lot of information. So let's see if we can get John back now. You're muted.
Right.
Still gargling.
Okay. Just see it without my brain.
I can try to mute you on my end and then restart it, but I don't know. I can do that.
Is this better now? Okay, I'll go in there. Really?
I don't know what you did before when this happened when we were practicing, but
Yeah. Don't know.
there, you're better. You're back.
Okay. Just click. Just keep clicking, I think is the key. I swear.
All righty. Thank
All
you.
right. Yeah, we'll just keep it going here. All right. Let's go to the next one. So what I wanted to talk about is how to prune without using a ladder. We talked about the dangers of pruning with a ladder. And there are pole pruners, which are extendable poles. They are really handy. They can go up to 16, 20 feet. It allows you to stay on the ground and be safe and to reach a large, higher branches. There are ones that are called power pruners, which are in that lower right-hand corner. It's basically a chainsaw on the end of a pole with a power pack. In this case, this one happens to have a battery power pack, but you can see the gentleman using it has his helmet on and his mask and his earmuffs and those things, because there's a lot of sound from that. But those do allow you to reach. They are actually a good investment if you have large trees and you plan to use them. So there are a pole pruner, a good one, will run you probably in the $70 to $100 range. A power pruner, that's the one that I'm still waiting for as a Christmas gift. Those are the $300 and $400, $500 type of things. So just always kind of keep that in mind when you're seeking Christmas gifts. And then success. So again, our big key here is we really want to be able to prune so that we get that callus to come around that injury and seal around that pruning wound. And that tells us that we've done a really good job when it's kind of equal all the way around. So if it's a donut, you've done really, really well, okay? And I think, Janda, we were going to go to the next one about the tree coupon. So do you want me to talk about it, or are we going to do anything else?
Yeah, do mention it because there are people who may want to take advantage of that tree coupon that have not seen it yet.
Okay. Oops, looks like there's some people here. Got a little poll question. So while we're taking the poll, the city of Tacoma, the Puyallup Watershed Initiative, and Tacoma Power have joined together, working with participating nurseries in our area to offer a coupon to Pierce County residents. And their coupon is good for $30 off of a landscape or low growing tree at participating nurseries, and you can purchase up to 3 trees at $30 each. So it's like a $90 value. So it's a really good opportunity. We'll show you in a second here where you can apply for it. And also, I am kind of a good contact. If you run into a problem, you can always email me your name and your address, and I can help you do it online. So there's a way, it's an online application. The coupon gets mailed out generally once a week, and then you take your coupon with you to the participating nurseries. And the website has the listing of the 7 nurseries, and many of them are well-known ones. So not everybody participates, but many of them do. And it's been a really great program. So just wanted to let you know that, okay? And so there's the results. Looks like these 4 folks have never done it before. So I do encourage you, you can go to this web address, which is the cityoftacoma.org, in this case, tree coupon. And let's see if that will go away here in a minute. Okay. And you can, all right, it's being very persistent today, Janda, that poll question.
I stopped sharing. It was
okay. Thank you.
It was 100% for no.
Okay. So again, it is available here. Again, I'll have my email at the end of the program. But again, if you go to the cityoftacoma.org /tree coupon, it'll take you right to it. And you just need to put in your address. And I just want to give you a tip. It'll automatically know your address once you start putting the numbers and beginning names of your address. It'll pick it out right away. So be patient with it while I think.
John, we have a
Yes.
question in the chat. I don't know if King County has a similar program, but I don't think this program extends to Vashon Island. Is that correct?
It does not. It does not. You have to be a Pierce County resident. So currently there isn't one like this in King County. So I apologize, but Pierce County only. And it's not just the city of Tacoma, it is Pierce County wide.
Right.
All right. Cool. Good questions. Okay.
And I'm also going to, while you're taking a quick pause there, I'm going to put in the links for the USDA How to Prune, because they have a lot of information that John uses.
Yeah.
And I will also include the information on Tacoma's urban forestry program, which has a huge amount of information, whether you're a Tacoma resident or not, but a lot of really good information on trees, answering a lot of questions about trees and that sort of thing. And I did add the link above on how to register for upcoming workshops, and I added the link for the Tacoma Tool Library. So I'll put my information there as well. And you can copy, I think you can just do like a control all and copy, you can copy everything in the chat, and I will leave that up for a little bit as we're finishing so that you can copy those and paste them into a notepad or a Word doc or another email or whatever. So you'll have those. Okay.
All right. So I'm going to do a quick sales pitch here, as my job as a Tacoma Power employee and conservation manager. So if you are a Tacoma Power customer, we have a number of different rebates and a zero interest loan for improving your home and your energy efficiency of your home. That involves things like ductless heat pumps, water heaters, insulation in windows, and other ways. So if you go to mytpu.org rebates, that'll take you to a great web page that lists all the information about the various programs. If you happen to have a business here that's in the Tacoma Power service area, we also have rebates for businesses. So feel free to check with us, and we offer opportunities there. And then the shade tree coupon, again, is available. I'm going to test this, Jandis, since it's going to work. I want to see if it'll take us to the web page and if people can see it, see if it'll work. It's thinking. There it is.
It's not showing here. It might just be showing on yours.
Okay, hang on a second. Tell me if it's not showing here.
Make sure you can get back to that last page.
Yes, I will. Okay. It should show. Is it showing yet?
No.
Okay.
I think it has to be on our own computers if we're going to go.
No, it shouldn't do that. It should go right to the link when it's a fresh link, but that's okay. Okay, we'll go back to the new share here. Go back to this and share and stop sharing. Then we'll go back to here, back to there and share. Okay, so again, I do invite you to feel free to email me. These are my email addresses. I'm more than glad to provide advice or information regarding trees or any of the programs that we've talked about. One of the ways that I've helped people very quickly is sometimes people take a picture of their trees or their questions and they email that to me. That does help me be able to quickly look at the tree and give you some advice. Especially in our COVID world, it just makes it a little easier for everybody to feel safe and comfortable. But those are my contact information. So feel free to to email me at those places. So I'll wait just a sec for you to take a look at that and write that down. And if you want to know how it's pronounced, again, Walkowiak, okay? Second W sounds like a V. So J Walkowiak at cityofTacoma.org.
And that is in the link in the chat, and it's the first information I put in. So again, like I said, you can copy that. If you can't copy it and you have issues with that, let me know or let John know, and I can copy everything that's in the chat and email it to you. There aren't so many people signed on today that I can't do that. So,
Okay.
and my address is the very last one. John's is the first one.
Yeah. So here's all that information regarding the EnviroHouse, how to register for upcoming workshops, the recordings that we've talked about, the City of Tacoma Urban Forestry Program and their information about landscape and street trees, and the Tacoma Tool Library information. As Janda said, they're closed until March, but there is their web address and their phone number. So we'll leave that there. I'm going to double check the chat real quick and see if there are any other questions from anybody. Real quick, I thought
yeah, I did not see any.
Okay.
And I just tried to do the Control All to see if I could copy in my chat. I could not do that, but I am able to click on the top one. It's kind of hard to read a little bit, but you can highlight everything and then copy paste it out.
Yeah, exactly. So, okay.
Well, unless there are any other questions, and I don't see any in the chat, we, I think, have concluded our presentation, and it will be posted on the City of Tacoma YouTube channel that is in the chat also, but that's youtube.com/Tacoma/playlist. And you can see all the videos that we recorded, and you can also see the how-to videos that we did. And it takes typically a few days for us to get this up because we have to work with our media department and they have other priorities too. So it will get online. If you need the information immediately because you want to go prune this weekend, we did do this last October, I think it was the end of October. And that one is online. So you can go online and pull up the one that we did last fall and view that before this one gets posted if necessary. So again, thank you to John and thank you everybody for attending. And we will conclude our webinar unless you've got anything else to add, John.
No, I think we're good. I'm hoping this is a great time to do tree pruning. So next couple weeks in particular, really before about that mid to late March timeframe would be ideal. So it's a great time.
Okay, and I would also mention that we are, the EnviroHouse is still closed, unfortunately. Up until April, we'll be finding out whether we can reopen at that point in time. I'm planning webinars through July right now because the space is so small there. I anticipate we will not do on-site workshops for a while yet, unless we can do something outside. So keep that in mind, and wherever you found these, you can find listings when they're posted for April through July, and there will be links in the information in the city's EnviroTalk newsletter that will be going out in April. So thank you again, and thanks, John, and we will conclude our webinar.
Thank you.
Okay. Talk to you later, John.
You bet. Thank you, Janda. Have a great weekend.
Everybody too.